I appreciate everyone being here. Obviously, first off, I want to thank the fans for Saturday. The students, the alumni, everyone that came out. Tremendous support. It's kind of like that Miami Heat game where everyone flooded back in and we found a way to win it. Incredible resolve on our football team. I really believe our belief in what we're doing really in all three phases is truly unshakable, and I think that's, what you experienced. Even though on offense, I'm going to see 4 turnovers, missed assignments, missed execution. We obviously fell very short of our standard, and that's on me. And I think that's very, very important to understand. My job is to get the best out of our team and our players. And obviously I fell short on that side of the ball. We've identified a ton of things that we need to grow and get better at. And I thought our guys took the right approach this morning, seeing themselves do those things and what we need to do to correct them. Our defensive performance was the most unselfish defensive performance I've ever seen. From the standpoint of the defensive end setting the edge so his buddy could make the play. Linebackers forcing the edge so somebody else could come in and make it. The corners and safeties communication. It was just incredible. And the way they kept responding, we turned the ball over 5 times total. That led to 0 points. Just an amazing performance. And it was so unselfish and just speaks to that side of the ball and what they're doing. And obviously special teams made a couple big plays. Forced a shank punt, which led to a field goal. Obviously the big field goal at the end of the game was tremendous and proud of that. But everyone asked me, Coach, it's so cool you won the game on a last-second field goal. I said we won the game on a blocked extra point. Incredible effort. Incredible effort. You see that play, watch Dallas Afalava, speaks to our team, speaks to the mentality. Just awesome. Really, really proud of where we're at, what we're doing. But just like anything else, man, if you don't humble yourself, this game will humble you really quickly. All right, so our team needs to get back in the dark. We need to understand the process of what took us to get here and what led us to be successful. And we got to have a great week of work. Florida State, finally is we've gotten a couple of these opponents where we've been on bye weeks, right? And then prepared 2 weeks for Georgia Tech. We prepared 2 weeks for SMU, and you saw the result of that work, the difference in preparation. So this is the first time someone's been waiting for us, and I would imagine they've been waiting for us with bad intentions. So we need to have our best. We need to prepare our best. We need to be focused to the way we're capable of being focused. I think their quarterback is elite. He's extremely talented. And I think their defense is the last version of Rocky Long's defense left in this world, which is phenomenally attacking, which can go both ways. So, success equals sacrifice, and our guys got to be willing to do that. They've done that every step of the way, and I believe we'll continue to do that. So I'll open it up to any questions.
You were pretty animated after the game Saturday. With the 24-hour rule that you were imposing, how long did it take you to come down from the win and get back into preparation mode?
By the time I left the locker room, winning, I think the longer you do it is so, I don't even know the right word, I'm a math guy, but it's so short and in the moment. And the jubilation is high. That locker room was unlike anything I've ever seen, and it was so organic, just incredible. And you want those guys to live out those moments. Then I think as a coach, right away you're on to the next thing, and had a recruiting dinner that night, and you snap yourself right back into what do we need to do to prepare for what's next. And so it's quick. It is 24 hours, and that's what I mean about being humble. Right? Either you're humbled by the tape, you need to get right back to work. You have success, you better humble yourself. You got to get right back to work. You got to be extremely consistent, and I think that's what we have to demand out of each other, and that's what Built in the Dark means and represents.
Jake, you talked about you guys getting better week after week, and I feel like every game 2 new guys pop up that are playing better. This past Saturday it was Sano and Gabe Kershke. What has kind of led to their ascension, I guess, over the last few weeks, so that would be more and more dependable as we go on?
Well, I think Frank is finally healthy. I think he had an ankle injury after NC State, maybe, or the game after, so he's been out a little bit. And I thought he played great. I thought he was physical. I'll be honest, there's just a lot of those guys. We hand out candy bars for guys that played their best. I think Quincy Bryant was one of the best games I've seen him play. Gabe Kershke has just done a lot of old-fashioned dirty work throughout the season, and he had a couple great plays on the edge, so he took advantage of it. He plays really, really hard. We showed about 5 or 6 defensive linemen running down the field and making plays. There's one on a third down on a screen, Jaden Loving. He'll tell you how fast he is, yes, okay, but man, he was moving. And those are the plays that win games, okay? Those are the plays that nobody talks about, but those are the plays that I get to see these guys and how hard they work and why they do it for their brothers. So there's tons of amazing, great efforts out there.
Controlling the controllables.
Yeah.
After watching the film, what's the workload this week? What is the controllable that needs to be fixed?
Well, I think every phase has their own deal. Obviously, anytime like you disobey the ball like that, like first thing we're doing tomorrow is ball security. And I'm going to have a pad, and these quarterbacks are going to feel me all day. I think that's really important that we clean that up. Kind of went back and watched some tape. I was like, where did it show up? Because it doesn't just pop out of nowhere, right? So, I had some things. We also showed some other opportunities where we could have lost the ball. Sterling on a tremendous effort. He's got this ball way out here. Demond on 4th and 2 is like palming it at times, right? Made an amazing play, by the way, to make 2 guys miss on that play. So we got to go back to those habits, execution. We just got to be cleaner on offense, especially, like I said, it's on me. That's 2 weeks of work. And to go out there, and there's times where we were misaligned or we had to take a timeout late in the game because we didn't know where we're supposed to be. Then we jump off sides. Then there's so many little details in this game, in our kind of preparation. Defense, once again, they got to get back to it. There's about 1 or 2 communication issues. We had a little bit of a tempo issue. Florida State will do that when we sub. And then special teams, we probably had 2 opportunities to really break the game open in a close game like that. One on the kick return. We just had 1 assignment bust that I think Tate would have took it to the house. And then on the punt shank, I thought we should have blocked it for a touchdown. So there's always these moments that you get right back to it. And, we pointed out the good, and we did plenty of good things in all 3 phases, but we got to get right back to that.
Cut down on the penalties over previous weeks. There's still the penalty on special teams, on the punts, on the illegal formation. That one had you incensed more than, and remember, I saw you at Washington State too. That one had you more incensed than I remember seeing you.
Well, Nick Whitworth is an evil genius. Okay, he comes up with a lot of really good things. We'll be on a constant state of schematical attack, like we've talked about it. And we had this play up. You go over and you meet with the referees before, right? And we showed them the play. I'm still waiting to get feedback. We submitted it. I think it's a legal play, right? So I thought we were set. We had definitely had enough people on the line, so I think they announced it as a legal formation. So I got to get more clarity. I thought we were set. That play's been run 3 times across college football this year. We watched all of them. Ours looks the same. Ty Clark makes an amazing cut, right? And, we knew we were going to have to try to steal a possession somewhere, and we took our opportunity and our shot. So we got to get back to it. But, yeah, penalties, once again, the pre-snap penalties, the post-snap penalties, the pass interference, we had a couple of them that I just thought we were in good position. Just keep playing. Webb's out the gate. He was good. Braylon's, they're in good shape. So just keep playing and keep trusting your technique, which those guys will continue to learn from.
Jake, with Florida State, is it a little bit similar to Oregon State where they've had some close games and while they do feel like they're a little bit down in their luck, you still have to remind yourself this is still a good football team? Does it help that you've had that Oregon State game where you kind of know how to deal with that sort of opponent a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's always, nameless, faceless opponents. We get to go down and play one of the, blue bloods of college football, however you want to say it, in a big arena. We seem to be everyone's homecoming, so we get another homecoming game. I expect it to be a really packed place, and our guys are going to be ready for the challenge, right? So that's part of like the built-in-the-dark mentality. It doesn't matter the opponent's record, doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter where they came from, where we got to go. We need to play to our standard of football, and we got to prepare that way. So you're still dealing with 18 to 23-year-old minds, right? And that matters, and different teams show up every week. But I really trust in our guys and how driven they are and the leadership of the team, to go out there and try to get it the right way. And, yeah, just turn the film on. You see big, tall, long, massive individuals, playing at high rates and high speeds, right? So we got to be able to match that with our intensity.
Jake, going into fall camp. What was some of your concerns? You mentioned the cornerbacks. You said they surprised you throughout camp. You were pleasantly surprised by that. Do you feel like this was a defensive performance that this group was building towards and that you saw coming from what they did throughout camp?
I take it back to NC State. We had to fail at NC State to be this successful against SMU. I know that sounds weird, but we needed that because at NC State, I came in here and I said we pressed, we tried to do too much, they tried to do each other's jobs, and they learned from that and they grew from that. And we're this close against Georgia Tech, and to see that performance, that is what built it. Not, the work in fall camp and the foundation that was laid, but also going through failure. And not pointing fingers and not, anytime a high performer presses, bad things happen. Every time they go outside the framework of their assignment and technique, bad things happen. I mean it. It was the most unselfish performance defensively I have ever seen. And I've been watching defensive football the last 17 years. So it's just a credit to their mentality and wanting to do it together. And we'll have to do it again, because you're not just going to go out there and just stop everything Florida State does. You got to trust that everyone else is going to do their job. So I lean more to the failure at NC State of why we created success for ourselves on Saturday.
As far as quarterback position goes between Robbie and Deshaun, what's kind of the next steps as you guys work on the ball security? Is it going to be a week-to-week kind of situation at this point?
Yeah, it's going to be really competitive. It was obviously a roller coaster of a lot of things. We did convert some big-time third downs in the fourth quarter. Obviously, the last play before the kick, you're in a situation where we've worked out a lot. It's a got to have it. He's got to throw it up. We actually missed the protection. They brought 6 people and went 3 over 2, which was very surprising. And Cam Johnson went out there and made a heck of a catch, right? So we have to be better. We will be better. They know I have the back, but they got to be ultra competitive this week. I thought both of them came in here with the right mindset to the meeting and the walkthrough. And obviously Robbie isn't still full healthy. I think, hopefully we get him to that point so he can go out there and compete the way I know he's capable of doing, right? So for Deshaun, it's a very, to learn through a win like that, I think is important for the mentality of it, but he's got to be better. He owned everything, today, and we'll keep moving forward.
So I just want to follow up on that to clarify. It is a quarterback. You said it's going to be very competitive going forward. So it is a quarterback competition then for the starting spot.
Yeah, first off, we won't put Robbie out there full time unless he's 100%. Now, he came in a situation that was very difficult, and I thought he navigated it really well. I anticipate him getting to that point, and we will always make the best decision for the team. But he's got to continue to get healthy, as we work through this final stretch of games.
I want to go back to your comments about the defense real quick. You've got a new defensive coordinator this year. You've got some guys returning. You've had to blend everybody into what is really a very different defensive scheme than what it was in recent years. Talk about the adaptation of the returning guys like Winston Bryant, or guys like Devon Patterson, or Hazen, or guys like that, how it was to adapt to all the newness that was put in front of them.
Well, that's definitely been where are we at, 10-month process. It's definitely been a 10-month process. And, I just go back to guys, they're seniors, they have a ton of experience, they haven't had a lot of success defensively. You can't overstate the power of game repetitions. So we did have a decent amount of game repetitions coming back. And I thought these guys were like sponges from day one. But you also got a guy like Mateen that redshirted last year. Just wildly talented, that's playing tremendous football, great leadership, and all those guys that you've mentioned, and they just bought completely into what we're doing. Just 100%. Belief is the most powerful thing that you could ever have when you're trying to build a culture, and those guys just, from the first conversation I remember I had with Nick Anderson, he's like, Coach, I'm all in. What do I need to do? Who do I need to call? He wanted a playbook right then. I'm like, I got to hire some people. So these guys have just jumped in all in, not a toe in the water, not let's see if this works out, then I'll give my effort to it. From day one, they've been ultra competitive. They've accepted the new guys. Gabe and Newer and, Langston and just, Frank and like KP, like they just welcome them with open arms. Yeah, we're competing, but we're brothers and we're making each other better. So I think that's been a really positive sign, and now we're getting kind of the fruits of the labor. But just like anything else, like, you got to eat crumbs. Like, you got to go out there and be really humble to the process, and these guys will do that.
Jay, kicker is such a lonely position. He had that attempt at the end of the first half. He had the leg. It didn't have it down the middle.
Yeah.
When you sent him out there for that last kick, what was going through your mind?
He's going to make it. Like, I never wavered one time. You know, I thought he's going to go out there and he's going to do what I've seen him do a lot. I think it is a really tough position. I would never want to be a kicker. I would never want one of my kids to be a kicker. Like, I'm just being honest. But, you know, and being so raw, because I think the more you put yourself in those situations, the more you just got ice in your veins and you just go do it. But Connor's a special talent. Like, that's why we brought him here. And, you know, we put him out there a couple times in 50-yard situations, and he has snapped them, right? Or we've had some kind of operational issue. You know, it was just confident. It was the kick, and it was just enough, right? So, you know, really, really proud of him to come back and battle back. But there was no hesitation on what we were going to do there.
The running game, obviously there's an opportunity this week with Florida State to get this aligned a little bit from time to time. How, in your evaluation, is it guys kind of getting a little bit too antsy when they're trying to get into their entry points? Is it guys trying a little too much? How, and we have an opportunity against a defense that does leak a little bit in the run game. How do you kind of make sure everyone's, you know, hey, you still need to do your job. Don't try to do everything.
Yeah, and I do give credit to SMU. You know, we talked about it. We identified it. I mean, their front four was difficult to handle. And, you know, but it still comes back to technique. You know, the first play, you know, we felt could have ripped if we stayed on the track. And, you know, so there's a bunch of different learns in that capacity that we got to get better at. Our zone game has to get better. You know, we got to be able to move people off the ball. People have hurt Florida State just in zone game because they do, you know, move and twist and angle more than, you know, most people do in the country. And, you know, they're vertical penetrators, and sometimes that can rip some seams. And we'll have to do that. You know, on Saturday, especially in the second half, there's just no balance. You know, now DeMond gave us some spark plays, and we're about a couple of heel clicks from ripping those and going making it. You know, but we're also two execution drives inside of the 5 of like putting that game away, right? So we have to go do that. Comes back to the red zone, you know, physicality, blocking, communication up front, especially this week, will be at a premium because of all the different type of looks they're going to give us up front.
So I want to go back to the field goal for just a second. Have you checked in with Connor today? Is he the most popular guy on campus?
Well, I've seen him around, and then, you know, my deal with a specialist, like, I just treat them all the same, right? So if I don't talk to you before you normally go out, in that moment I'm not talking to you, right? You know, like, so those is kind of how we handle it. I've saw he walked in with a smile today. That's good, as he should. Yes, so he's doing well. Sasha Garcia in our locker room celebration is like, hey, throw him in the middle. Like, so he jumped in the middle of it, you know. So, but yeah, we need to like get the kicker back to his normal deal and you know, get back to work. All right, appreciate everybody. Thank you. Go Deacs.